I'm in the car, driving south, slower than I normally drive. I've been rehearsing what I'm about to say for the last hour. I'm a Virgo, so when something matters, I'll run it through my head 50 times until it makes sense to me. But in this case, I'm running this sentence through my head 50 times until I find the version of it that I can actually say out loud. I'm crying off and on, not loud, just leaking. I'm driving home to tell my parents the truth. I'm 40 something years old. I'm homeless. I've been living in a motel for 5 months paid for by a community organization. My body is breaking down in ways no doctor can name. I'm doing contract work for a few $100s a day. And I've been driving home on weekends for months, pretending everything is fine. But that's about to end. I don't know what's on the other side of telling them, but I know it's time. I want to tell you what happened when I got there, because the moment I'd been most afraid of for most of a year was nothing like what I'd built it up to be in my head. Now let me back up. The last few episodes, I told you about the nudge that pulled me out of a relationship, the woman who took me in, and the fashion show I built in her backyard while my life was collapsing. After all of that, I had nowhere to go. The community organization I told you about housed me in a motel for about 5 months. I made it home for what it was. I kept it clean, and I had food. I had work. I was okay. But I was lying to my family. Most weekends, I drive back to my parents' house to break up the monotony of being in the motel. Not to live with my parents, but to just show up, to eat my mom's food, to answer her questions the way she wanted to hear them, to have chats with my dad, and to leave again Sunday night and drive back to a motel they didn't know existed. Now, I have to tell you about my family for any of this to make sense. My parents are entrepreneurs, self-made millionaires. They built what they had from nothing. I'm the oldest of 4. The expectation in my head, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure anyone put it there but me, was that I was supposed to be the proof of their hard work, and that it worked. School, career, marriage, kids, the American dream. And to be honest, I have student loans to show how far I chased it. So sitting at my mother's table at 40 something, broke, homeless, living in a motel, that just wasn't admitting a hard season. That was admitting every fear I'd ever had about myself. So I didn't admit it for months. Until the night in the motel when I sat with myself and heard plainly, it's time to tell your parents. That brings us back to the car, the drive south, the rehearsing, the slow leak of crying that I couldn't stop and honestly didn't try to. When I got home, my parents weren't at the house. They were at one of the businesses my mom owns. It's a child development center called Light Years. She has a couple of locations now. I'm going to come back to that detail in a minute because I didn't realize what it meant until much later. But I asked them if we could talk. And then I just opened my mouth and emptied out everything I had been holding for the better part of a year. I said, I'm homeless. I have nowhere to go. My body is falling apart. I had to leave a bad situation with someone. And I've been doing all of this for months and not telling you. The first thing they asked me was if I was mentally stable. Let's sit with that for a second. because I know some of you either heard that question or asked it yourself. When a son's life caves in, even loving parents, especially loving parents, go to the worst place first. They asked if I needed help. They were asking the kinds of questions you ask when you're afraid your child is unraveling. But I wasn't unraveling, and I understood why they asked. The picture I'd been hiding looked exactly like a man losing his grip. Now, I did break down crying in front of my parents, but my dad looked at me and it was a different type of look. Now, I'm going to tell you what I saw in his eyes because I'll carry it for the rest of my life. There was no disappointment. There was no judgment, just real concern, real deep concern from a man who suddenly understood his son had been carrying this alone for a long time. He said to me 2 words: stay strong. That was it. But the way he said it, I felt him see me. I felt him understand that I needed them. And later in the same conversation, he said the other thing. He said, come home, son. And the way he said it had a question buried inside of it. It was like, what is wrong with you for not just asking? Why wouldn't you come home? That's the moment that broke something open in me. I realized that I didn't know I could ask to come home. I had carried the story so long, I'd forgotten the option even existed. But here's where I have to come back to light years. I told them all of this at one of my mother's centers, the center she built. That detail meant nothing to me that day. I felt like I was just there, and that I went there because they were there. But 1 year later, almost to the month, I walked into a brand new Light Years location on Johnston's Road in Norfolk, Virginia, freshly opened, still mostly empty of kids, clean and shiny and waiting. I walked in as a different man. The business that had received my confession was the same business that received my return, but in a new building, a new room for a new version of me. The place that held me when I was the most broken handed me a place to come back to once I could stand. So my parents took me in. They didn't put me to work. They told me to get myself together, however long it took, whatever it looked like. I moved in with them in October of 2023. It would be a whole year before I could be around people again. And I know that sounds strange, but I knew I needed to heal. A year of going to the ocean front almost every morning. A year of sitting with myself, crying, asking questions, and waiting for answers. Some came fast. Some took months. I wasn't producing anything. I wasn't building anything. I was just being still long enough to hear what I'd been running from for most of my life. By November of 2024, something in me had quieted enough that I could re-enter the world. And the world I re-entered was Light Years. Now, here's what I learned in all of it. Pretending costs you time. It cost me months of healing I could have been doing. It cost me months of being with my family. I told myself the lie that I was protecting them from the truth, but I wasn't. I was protecting the version of myself I thought they expected. Most of what I was afraid of wasn't even real. The judgment I imagined wasn't in their eyes. What was in their eyes was love I've been refusing to let reach me. Now, I need to tell you the other part too, because I don't sell quick fixes on this channel. Telling the truth wasn't the end of the work. It was actually the start of it. Coming home didn't fix me. Coming home gave me the ground to do the fixing on. That's a different thing. One honest conversation does not rebuild a life, but one honest conversation can give you somewhere solid to start rebuilding from. That's what my parents gave me that day. Ground. Now, if there's something you're carrying right now that you haven't told the people who love you, I'm not telling you to call them tonight. I'm telling you to ask yourself an honest question. Who am I actually protecting by not saying anything? And the answer might not be who you think it is. So here's what I want you to sit with for the rest of your drive. What truth are you keeping from the people who would help you carry it? You don't have to tell anyone tonight, and you don't even have to decide. But just stop pretending you don't know what it is. I'll talk to you soon.